if you've got a passion for something, it's not hard. And I love agriculture, forestry, and rural South Carolina. And again, I'm a little bit unique. I love to associate with people, so that makes it easy. I mean, long hours go by quickly when you're working with people that you admire, and you admire what they're trying to accomplish,
Right.
and you feel like maybe I'm helping them in some way, shape, or form.
Hi, welcome to Elevate Leadership Podcast, brought to you by SC State University Public Service and Agriculture. I'm your host, Elizabeth Mosley Hawkins, and I'm thrilled you're tuning in. Whether it's your first time with us or you're a returning listener, thank you for being a part of this community. Elevate Leadership explores what it really means to lead with purpose, insight, and a little grit. We sit down with some of the most innovative, inspiring, and influential leaders from across industries who are growing businesses, shaping minds, and forging new paths. Our goal is simple: to uncover real-world stories and lessons that bring you insight and inspiration to help you elevate your own leadership journey. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's at SC State 1890, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss a conversation. You can also stay connected with everything happening at SC State PSA by following us on our socials. So let's get started. Our guest today is a friend and supporter of SC State PSA, and I'm so glad he accepted our invitation to be a guest on the show because he is one hard-working executive. Today's guest knows what it means to plant seeds both in soil and in service. Ronnie Summers is the CEO of the Palmetto Agribusiness Council, where he champions South Carolina's agribusiness industry and works to ensure it remains strong and sustainable. Before stepping into that role, Ronnie spent over 35 years in the farm credit system, serving in roles from loan officer to South Carolina regional president at Ag South Farm Credit. His background blends agriculture and finance in a way that's helped countless farms and agribusinesses thrive. A proud Clemson graduate, Ronnie also completed programs at the Georgia Southern Agribusiness School, University of South Carolina Banking School, and the National Farm Credit Leadership Development Program. His service doesn't stop at his day job. Ronnie serves on numerous boards, including the South Carolina Advocates for Agriculture, the South Carolina 4-H Foundation, and the National Farmer Veterans Coalition. He also advises organizations like the Rural Resource Coalition and SC State's very own business school. And while he's made a career of supporting others and growing South Carolina agribusiness, family is at the heart of it all for Ronnie. He and his wife, Lainey, have been married 43 years, and they enjoy life on their family farm. They have 2 children and 2 grandchildren, and Ronnie says that they are self-proclaimed river rats. Ronnie, welcome to Elevate Leadership Podcast.
Well, thank you for having me, Liz.
And thank you for allowing us to film here at PABC in downtown Columbia.
It's a privilege to have y'all here.
Thank you. Listen, so I wanted to start off by saying, whenever I'm around you, you always make me feel welcome. You have such a warm personality, and I've watched how you move with other people when I've seen you interact with other industry folks. And I think you make people feel seen and valued. So I wanted to say I admire you for that, but I also wanted to find out, how do you feel a leader's personality and demeanor help make them a great leader?
Well, first of all, you're too kind, frankly, in your comments, but I do appreciate it. You know, I tend to be myself a people person. I'm a little bit extroverted. I really, I thought about and pondered a question similar to that recently, and a good leader, really, the personality is important, but having balance. My mentor that I started with, he was somewhat introverted, if you will, but a fantastic leader. Okay. His intelligence, his understanding of the circumstance you were dealing with at the time just stood out to me. So I don't know that there's one specific characteristic that drives a good leader. I do think it's very important as a leader that you're consistent in the way you approach things. And one of the most important things is that you set a good example for the people you are leading. That's one of the most important.
And in what ways do you try to set an example with those that you're leading?
Well, again, you're too kind, but to use your term, my work ethic's always been pretty good. I grew up on a farm, and you couldn't cut corners. You had to do what was necessary, and I've tried to take that forward into the business settings, both at the Farm Credit System and here at Palmetto Agribusiness Council, and kind of use that as my gauge. I don't ask people to do things that I'm not willing to do myself. So I really believe the example you set is one of the keys to being a good leader.
I love that. So I want to talk a little bit about Palmetto Agribusiness Council. What is it, and how do you all work to advance agriculture or agribusinesses in the state of South Carolina?
Good question. And I want to start by saying that we're very proud that South Carolina State University is a member of our organization.
Yes, yes.
Dr. Whitesides represents y'all and does a fantastic job. So in 1999, when Palmetto Agribusiness Council started, it was all about agribusiness economic development, growing agribusiness in the state of South Carolina, both existing entities that were here and entities that we desired to move into South Carolina.
Okay.
In 2014, that changed slightly. The South Carolina Department of Agriculture pursued funds from the General Assembly to promote agribusiness in the state.
Okay.
And they essentially took over the primary role there with secondary support from the Palmetto Agribusiness Council. So at that point, we were always a leader in agribusiness advocacy.
Okay.
But that became the focal point of what we do. We're still involved in the economic development side, but that's not our very highest priority. Also, the typical person that thinks about our organization, I think they think in terms of policy, because we do a lot with legislative and regulatory policy.
Right.
But we're fortunate in that so many of our diversified members are also engaged in that arena.
Okay.
So we tend to be a supportive mechanism for them, if you will.
Okay.
And I would say that one of the core functions of PABC, Palmetto Agribusiness Council, that's we refer to ourselves as PABC, is to establish collaboration, okay? So that ag, forestry, and rural communities are all supported by our organization, and that we support each other even though in some circumstances we may have differences of opinion.
Yeah. How do you work out those differences of opinion when you know you have that one goal, right? But you are going to have varying opinions and maybe approaches and methods. How do you work through that?
Well, day to day, that's probably the single thing that I focus most of my attention on is collaboration, because oftentimes we're not the leader on a certain topic matter or issue, but we're trying to find ways that either our members can work together, okay, or if necessary, just not be opposed to the position of others. So creating some balance there. If you were to look at the membership of Palmetto Agribusiness Council, there's about 110 members, and it's extremely diversified. Telecommunications, utilities, our land grant schools, our farmers, our forestry industry, both timberland owners and growers and processors. These folks don't always agree on every issue, right? So we try to find common ground. We try to promote that. And we try to make sure that if we are somewhat opposed, that it's not a strong opposition and we work together.
Okay. So I mentioned that you have over 35 years, in agriculture and in finance. What is the greatest lesson that you've learned over that time period, and how do you apply it as you're leading in the industry?
Well, what I did in the Farm Credit System and what I do here at Palmetto Agribusiness Council, have some common ground, but they also have a lot of differences. The focus in my first 35 years was the mission was to provide credit to farmers and people in the forestry industry. I always operated on the concept that and belief that you could make about any credit you wanted to make that qualified for the lending.
Okay.
Now, it might be that the borrower couldn't necessarily meet the requirements that you put before them, but that you could come up with ways to accomplish it if they had the appropriate support systems around them.
Okay.
In the finance side, it's always about risk, right? Mitigating risk.
Right.
And if a particular farmer was applying for a loan and they couldn't stand on their own, if they had a family member or friend that was willing to work with them and support them, you could find ways to make it happen, right?
Okay.
And so that's one of the things that I really focused on throughout my career. Same thing here at Palmetto Agribusiness Council. It's just not money as the driver, okay? The fact that we can accomplish so much, going back to the collaborative comment, if we work together and not work against each other. That's so important.
Yeah.
It's all about teamwork.
You're watching Elevate Leadership Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and our socials at SE State 1890. Has there ever been a time where members, or it doesn't have to be members, but that you just couldn't see eye to eye? And how did you work through that?
Well, here at Palmetto Agribusiness Council, we have encountered a few of those circumstances, but not a lot, okay? And it's typically where a pure agribusiness might have a difference of opinion with one of our non-agribusiness members that want to support ag, forestry, and rural communities. And often in that case, we have to paint the picture clearly that we're about agribusiness. We're going to stand up for agriculture and forestry, okay? And so that's the picture that we paint, and that's where we stand. Now, oftentimes, those non-ag entities in particular, they have their own representatives, and they're going to take, they're going to go down the path that they feel is appropriate,
Right.
and we'll just agree to disagree, okay? Sometimes that does occur.
And how do you let go as a leader in that? If they decide to go somewhere, I know sometimes with leaders they may harbor on that one thing, but how do you let go of that?
Well, the first thing I would say is that I've been here 8.5 years now, and we have not had an entity leave or disassociate because of anything like that. And I think it's because at the core of what we represent, it's agriculture and forestry. And when you paint that picture for them and you describe, look, you know, I can't go against the farm community, I can't go against the forestry community, that's what we're all about. Frankly, we've been fortunate.
Yeah.
Folks have not disagreed. They understand that concept. And most of the non-ag members that are associated here, they're valuable, okay? And they want to support ag and forestry, and they go to great lengths to accomplish that.
I think that is the key thing, because even when you think about like public relations, and you know, you have to make sure that you have your messaging and, you know, always stay on message. It always goes back to the core, you know, why are we here? What's our mission? That kind of thing. So I love the fact that that's what you stress. And I guess they understand, right? They're in that industry, so they understand that. I wanted to go back. You talked about your mentor. And so a lot of times we hear leaders should definitely have a mentor. So was that something that you intentionally pursued, or did that individual kind of take you under their wing and say, you know, hey, I see promise in you? Like, how did that kind of work out?
I would say that he stepped out and he tried to take the lead on that, and I followed that lead. Now, my mentor and I had so much in common. He grew up on a farm, full-time farm. I grew up on a part-time farm, in all fairness. I grew up on a farm that was between my grandparents, so I was back and forth on their farms more than our own. But our work ethics and our approach to things were very, very similar, which made it easy.
Okay.
When he extended his hand and offered to lead me and guide me and mentor me, it was easy to follow.
Wow.
Okay. Ultimately, my advancement in my career, I was blessed. I was very fortunate, and it was all because of him, because we operated very similar to each other.
Okay.
I mentioned earlier the example. He set a fantastic example. You know, I saw what he did. I tried to copy that, if you will, and do things in a similar manner, and it paid dividends.
And what did that mentorship look like? Was it something where you all met once a month, or you just called them whenever you needed advice? How did that shape out for you?
Early on in my career, because I came to the farm credit system right out of Clemson after I graduated. I worked in a setting where he was the CEO of the organization and I was in the same building. Now, a few years later, I transitioned to other roles within farm credit and I moved, but we never lost touch. And he was, I mentioned earlier, a little bit introverted, but at the same time, he liked to touch base with his people, you know, and he did that with me, and we shared a lot of good times, and he was somebody that was very approachable. Okay, you could approach him with an issue you were facing, no matter how small or how large, and he could walk you through, this is what I would do. But he said, you got to decide what you're going to do, right? And so he offered me some autonomy and independence. He put me in positions where nationally, you know, I could attend leadership development training and that kind of thing, which showed confidence in me.
Right.
And that he thought, hey, you've got some potential and you can move up the ladder if you do these things and continue focused on where you want to go.
And so now, do you mentor? Do you serve as a mentor?
I do. I do. I don't probably do as much as I should, but I've got individuals that I've worked with, you know, the last 40 years that they still reach out to me. I mean, it's nothing for me to get a phone call or an email from somebody. You got a little time to talk or discuss something. So even to this day, there are a handful of people that we are close.
Yes.
And likewise, you know, they reciprocate because I bounce things off of them. What do you think about this idea? How should I deal with this? And they appreciate it because in most instances, those are people younger than myself.
Okay. You talked about with your mentor would give you, I guess, assignments or projects to work on, and gave you that autonomy to make decisions. When you are approaching, you know, making those type of decisions, what factors do you weigh to help you make what you believe is the best decision for the organization?
Well, I always try to determine what's the right path, what's the right answer, okay? But I would also tell you that it's dangerous to predetermine things, okay?
Okay.
Because oftentimes you find out things later in the process that change your mind, right? But I think that what has helped me to try to think through the whole process, what's right under the circumstances, and then move forward. And oftentimes you deviate, you massage that matter and you change it. So you've got to be open-minded, you know? You can't paint yourself into a box by, again, predetermining something and sticking to your guns. You got to find out all the factors and then move forward by considering all those factors.
Okay. So let me ask you something in terms of with agriculture changing, I mean, industry as a whole, right? It's changing at so many different things happening. But based on your knowledge of agriculture, the trends that are happening now, what do you think a leader in this industry needs to be prepared for? And say, based on today, considering the last 20 years, like what was happening in the last 20 years?
Well, I hope it's obvious that I have a passion for agriculture and forestry. Okay, I grew up in it my whole life. I've been in it. I have never seen as much change in agribusiness as I have in the last 20 years, and I would even say the last 5 to 10 years. Okay, things like technology coming into place. Okay, ag and forestry both are being challenged. And one of the biggest challenges we face is people form perceptions without knowing facts, okay? And they paint a picture and they find the critical things to criticize, right? The elements to criticize. But things like right now, labor is a challenge. So what we're seeing is technology, the ability to use robots, to use artificial intelligence, okay, sensors. I mean, you could go on and on.
Yes.
Agriculture is changing. It's changing dramatically. A point I want to clarify too about Palmetto Agribusiness Council, day to day we work with all farmers, but probably more with the larger commercial operations.
Okay.
And when we talk about all these changes technologically and how you approach things, there's a cost.
Yes.
Okay, there's a cost, and it's not cheap.
Right.
Okay, it's not inexpensive. So more so we probably see the larger commercial operations embracing technology, especially what I just mentioned, the AI, the robotics, the sensors, because they see that that might displace labor issues that they're facing day in and day out.
Okay.
Because it's hard to place labor on farms, right?
Yes.
So I see that. I also see, though, that there are probably unique ways outside the box for smaller to moderate-sized farms to utilize that service. It's just a little bit more problematic because of the cost.
Money. Yes.
The cost.
Yes.
And it's a long-term investment. It's not something that's going to pay dividends immediately.
Got it.
You've got to slowly go through the process. So I really see agribusiness changing. I've dwelled a little bit too much maybe on the technology factors, but in South Carolina we're seeing trade issues.
Okay.
Where's the markets? Where do you sell with paper mills closing? Where do you sell your timber products, right? Your logs, your pulpwood. The same thing in agriculture. We've seen soybean processors close. Where do you take the soybeans to be processed? So there's a lot going on right now in export markets and trying to determine how we can export more product. So it's not just technology, it's your general operating practices and how you market your commodities. You know, another thing that we're seeing in South Carolina, I'm giving you a long answer,
No, this
Liz,
is good.
but
This is good.
we're one of, if not the fastest growing states in the country.
Oh, yes.
That's a good thing on one hand, but it does challenge agriculture and forestry because quite honestly, we're losing a substantial amount of our cropland and our timberland.
Right.
And, you know, we're becoming more efficient so we can produce more on an acre of land, say, in the agricultural sector, but still, if you lose as much as we're losing day in and day out, that's a huge challenge. And with the growth, we're dealing with real estate values that are just never been comprehended in South Carolina, right?
So expensive.
So it becomes an economic decision when you're battling profitability and trying to keep your operation above, right? Above the water, producing profits. And at the same time, you're being challenged and offered a significant amount of money for your property. What do you do? Fortunately, there are some mechanisms out there to protect cropland and timberland. But a little slow, people are a little slow to embrace that because, let's face it, the agribusiness community is extremely independent. They want to hold on, but it's becoming more and more difficult to do that. So the last 20 years has brought a lot of change to agriculture and forestry.
You're watching Elevate Leadership Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and our socials at SE State 1890. And what's the sentiment, I guess, in the agribusiness industry of all of these changes? Is there trepidation? Is there like, let's figure out the solutions and make it happen? What?
I would tell you, my experience is being in mixed settings with young people and older people, that it's a battle, because there are a lot of people more my age, if you will, that say, growth, if you're not growing, you're dying, right? But where does the growth kind of cap? And we start looking out for our rural communities and protecting those. Of course, the next generation, some of them are hard pressed to stay on the farm, to be quite honest with you.
Really?
Okay? As successors.
Okay.
You will have some.
Okay.
But, you know, look, some young people that grew up on farms, they're pursuing the law degree, the medical degree, becoming an entrepreneur, a computer programmer. And they're debating, do I really want to stay on the farm? Because at times it's cyclical, at times it's challenging.
Right.
So the younger generation, I think, sees growth as a good thing, but do they hang on to the farm operations and so forth is a question.
Okay. You talked a little bit, I heard you mention the word balance several times in our conversation.
Yes.
And as I was preparing your intro, I was like, Ronnie has done a lot.
Too much.
Yes, like that's why I say you are one of the hardest working executives I know. So how do you balance it all? What's one of the ways that you do that?
My family would probably ask that same question. But you know, Liz, if you've got a passion for something, it's not hard. And I love agriculture, forestry, and rural South Carolina. And again, I'm a little bit unique. I'm not always the most intelligent person in the group, but I love to associate with people. So that makes it easy. I mean, long hours go by quickly when you're working with people that you admire, and you admire what they're trying to accomplish.
Right.
And you feel like maybe I'm helping them in some way, shape, or form. So that makes it easy for me. My family recognizes the passion I have, and we find time. We balance family time too, but it just makes it easier if you appreciate what you're doing.
And you mentioned that you grew up on a farm. How do the values that you learned growing up on the farm, how does that translate to you when you're in the boardroom?
Well, two ways I'll approach that. The first thing is growing up on a farm with row crops, animal agriculture, hogs, and then we transformed to cows, and having timberland, I've experienced it. So when I'm in the boardroom, first and foremost, I'm probably learning more than I'm teaching. Okay, because I learn from people around me. It's probably hard to recognize, but I like to sit back and listen. Now, I'll talk too, but you can tell. But I think the first thing is I bring some experience to the table by growing up out there on the farm, watching my dad, my two granddads do things, and then going into the arena where I was financing those operations. So, you know, I bring a lot to the table from that perspective. The other thing would be that when I'm on these boards, it's about something I appreciate, and I always learn so much that I didn't know. You know, at my age, you think you know a lot, right? You don't. When you sit in these boardrooms, it's a learning experience. And I mentioned earlier that you want to find what's best. And sometimes I'm one that likes to stick to doing what I've always done. And you got to think outside the box. You got to be open-minded. Sitting on boards and being engaged with our Palmetto Agribusiness Council board, our external boards, you hear all kinds of new approaches. And all of a sudden, the lights come on sometimes, and you say, hey, I can change.
I love that.
I can make a change here and we can do things even better.
I love that. So Ronnie, I'm going to wrap this up, but a little birdie told me that in a few weeks, few months, you might have a little bit more time to be on your farm, be with your family. That after 8 years of being here, you're looking at retiring from Palmetto Agribusiness Council. What brought on that decision?
For an interview, it's probably not a good comment to make, but I'm going to make it.
Okay.
The single biggest factor in me retiring is driving about an hour and 15 minutes each way on the interstate system of South Carolina. That's probably the single biggest factor. You know, if my office was 15 minutes from home, it would make all the difference in the world. Now, I will say our board has been so flexible. They say if you need to work from home, but I'm old school. You don't feel like you're engaged, right? If you're not in the office several days a week. You don't have to be here every single day. So the reason, as much as anything, is that I'm going to retire. And I am retiring in about 60 days. My successor's already been named, okay? We will have 60 days beginning July 1 to work with each other. I did just go through the loss of both my parents. We lived 200 yards, 300 yards from each other. I inherited the farm. I love the farm. I don't work as hard as I used to on the farm, but I love getting out on the farm and doing odds and ends, especially with the timberland side. And so my wife is retired. She's debating whether I should come home or not.
She's got to get herself together too.
Exactly, you can imagine that. But the bottom line is we want to free ourselves up to do some things that we've always envisioned, travel and do some. We've got a son that's out of state in Alabama. We rarely get to see him, so it's things like that.
Now, if you're looking for another daughter, that, you know, you're planning on some international travels, I would love to go with you.
Oh, well, I would like to accomplish just that, but now I don't know about my wife leaving the borders of the U.S., you know. I would like to do that. You know, just enjoying life some. You know, life is precious, and you don't ever know how long you're going to be here, and we want to enjoy ourselves some.
What's your hope for PABC?
Well, I am very excited as to the young lady that will be succeeding me, and she's a younger person. It should lend itself to some continuity and potentially long-term, you know, leadership. Whereas I knew when I came here 8.5 years ago that I actually told them I'd commit to 5, and I'm almost made 10, you know. So, but I'm excited to where it's headed. I think the next person's going to be different than me. My focus at the Agribusiness Council was growing it, despite my comments a little while ago. And we've grown from about 64 members to 110. And that was my expertise, bringing agribusiness to the table. She's more of a policy person. She'll be very strong in advocacy. And I think she will continue to grow. I don't know about at the same pace, but I think so I'm very excited where PAB, I think the future is extremely strong for Palmetto Agribusiness Council.
Awesome. Well, Ronnie, thank you so much for taking time to be on the Elevate Leadership podcast, and I definitely want to thank you for the support that you've always given to me, as well as SC State Public Service and Agriculture. You have always been someone that we could call on whenever, you know, we needed a letter at the last minute, or even your support of our ag scholars through, you know, the sponsorships and those things that you've done. So thank you so much. And I hope you are proud of the accomplishments that you've made with Palmetto Agribusiness Council. You're leaving it in a good place.
Well, thank you so much for engaging me in this process. And I will just comment, living 20 miles from campus, I've always admired South Carolina State University. I want the best for South Carolina State University. So it's easy for me to support our local folks that are at South Carolina State.
Thank
and I
you.
appreciate y'all embracing us too.
Yes,
Okay?
absolutely. Thank you, Ronnie.
Thank you.
Well, that wraps up today's episode of Elevate Leadership Podcast. A huge thank you again to Ronnie Summers for sharing not just his experience, but his heart for service and vision for the future. If something from today's conversation sparked an idea, challenged your thinking, or just inspired you, share this episode with a friend and let us know what you think. Remember, subscribe to the podcast on your favorite streaming platform and catch the full video on YouTube at SC State 1890. Until next time, keep striving, keep growing, and keep elevating your leadership journey. See you next time.